Tonight's guest is Liz. Liz, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vic. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, Liz. We appreciate your time. Liz, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, I'm retired. I'm a senior. I live in a senior village in Manchester, New Jersey. I have 2 daughters. One's married with 3 grandchildren. The other one is engaged. What else can I say about myself? My car got totaled, so I do a lot of walking in my area around where I live. I love animals. I don't know what else to say about me. I always had a fear growing up of werewolves due to a episode with my brother, but we'll talk about that later.
Instead of talking about that later, how about we touch on that now? It really is a shame what he did. Please tell the listeners about that.
Well, when I was about 5 years old, before school age, 5 going on 6 maybe, it was back in the 50s when Frankenstein and Werewolf and all these crazy horror movies were out. My brother had a mask of a werewolf, and he used to like to scare me. I had a little window over my bed, a little square window, and I lived on the 2nd floor, and he said, you know, werewolves like to eat little girls. They come and take little girls. I said, and they climb up buildings. So you have to be careful when there's a full moon out. That's when the werewolf comes out, and he's going to try and get you through that window. And he used to sneak in my room with this mask on and wake me up in the middle of the night. And I would be frantically screaming, and my father would come in, and I just would say, the monster is going to get me. The monster is going to get me. And I had trouble going to bed alone in my room. For years, my father would come in my room and sit on the end of the bed until I fell asleep. He got punished from my mother and father when they found out what he was up to, but he thought it was funny. And that fear stayed with me. Most of my teenage years into adulthood, my first boyfriend used to say, how you could be afraid of a fantasy? I just can't look at that face. I said, I just can't look at that face. I would turn chalk white when that movie was on. So for all of this to happen to me, it's strange. Of all people, I had this phobia as a kid, and I would have dreams for years, every night, same dream over and over again, being chased on a field of green grass into a giant wall of bushes by a werewolf. And then I would wake up, and I was terrorized with this for years. And same dream night after night as a kid. And finally the dreams went away as I got older, but it was a strong phobia. So for this to happen to me, out of all people. But the funny thing is, when I had my encounter, I realized, kind of took my phobia away in a weird way, that when I was a kid, it was a monster. Now as an older person saying this, it's an animal. Like, seeing a tiger or being face to face with a cougar. It's not a mythical creature. It's a real blood, flesh animal. And like I said, I love animals, but I'll get into that later, how I thought it was beautiful when I first saw it, but shocking, very shocking to see what I saw.
You poor thing. Shame on him for putting you through that. That's horrible.
He was a buster. He was a buster, my brother. I'm sure, if he knew how much I felt and what I went through, he wouldn't have done it. But I hate even saying it on the show. I hope he never hears the episode. But he was 7 years older than me. So, he wasn't much older. So he was a young kid too. Boys do crazy things. So, yeah, it's something that happened.
It's something that happened. And as you know, big brothers love to torment little brothers and little sisters, but still, shame on him to go to those measures and to that extent to torment you, that is horrible. Yeah, I wish he never would have done that. Talking about what he did to you, how much more difficult do you think your phobia of werewolves made dealing with your Dogman encounters?
Well, when it happened, I was shocked. Completely shocked, trying to grasp what I was seeing. I couldn't believe I was seeing what I was seeing. My mind couldn't get around what I was seeing at first. But then after hearing a lot of episodes and other people's encounters, I realized more and more what I was dealing with, what I did see. And it put a little bit of fear into me, hearing a lot of other episodes that were a lot worse than mine. I mean, there were a lot of terrifying episodes, realizing what it is. I was a little bit more fearful and more aware of my surroundings when I do go out. I'm afraid to leave my house. At night, I have to walk from my back door to my car, and there are woods right behind my house, maybe 5 to 8 feet back. I'd say about 8 feet back is the wood line right behind my house. And it runs back real far, and there's a stream, there's a swamp and a lake area. And I know it's in there because I'm not far from where I saw it the first time. So I used to walk around in my development. I have other family members that live here. I would walk to their house at night. I'm not thinking anything of it, just taking a walk at night in the summertime. Every once in a while, I get a creepy feeling, I gotta hurry home. It's dark. I feel like something's watching me. I always get these creepy feelings sometimes, and I will walk faster. But I never had any encounters. But once that happened, now, if I hear a twig snap behind me, I stop breathing. I catch my breath. Like, what was that? And I'm looking everywhere. When I drive, I look everywhere. So I was obsessed with this for about a year, nonstop talking about it, trying to figure out what I saw. I was looking on the internet for pictures. What was this animal? What was it? Was it a cougar? Was it a bear? What was this animal? And I didn't see anything that resembled it other than a werewolf. And I would research different movies. Somebody told me, oh, there's this movie out about werewolves. Is that what you saw? Dogman Soldiers. So I put that on, and a really weird thing happened. When I put that on, the movie stopped, and your show came up, Dogman Encounters. And that picture of the Dogman in the circle, that black Dogman in the circle, is almost identical to what I saw, with some slight modifications. But I started watching your episodes, and I knew what I saw now. This wasn't a cougar. It wasn't, a bear. As a matter of fact, there were sightings of a bear around that time in my community. I'd take a bus to medical appointments, and I was telling everybody I met, I saw a werewolf. I saw a werewolf. I saw a werewolf. And the guy said, oh, no, there were bear sightings in this area. It was a bear. I said, nah, there was no bear. It wasn't a bear. Bears don't leap 8 foot up in the air. This was no bear. And it's affected me. When I go to bed at night, I go lock all my windows. I used to leave my windows open and let the air in. Now I lock my windows. I shut my windows down. I lock my doors, double padded. I'm looking out the windows at night. If I had come in late, I'll call my daughter and say, meet me outside. I don't want to come in by myself. It puts a fear into you. You're afraid. God forbid, if it ever would have looked at me, I think I would have passed out. My episode wasn't as exciting as a lot of the other ones. I don't think I would have survived any of those encounters because of that phobia. But had an effect. Definitely had an effect on me.
It really is a shame you had to go through all that. That's horrible. But talking about your encounters, please tell us about them now, Liz. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Okay, so I used to drive everywhere. I don't have a car anymore. My car was totaled, so I walk. And I don't live close to stores. It's Hope Chapel Road is the road that I walk down. It's behind my development. This whole area is surrounded by woods with a few houses in here and there. My development was cut out of the woods. So we're surrounded by woods. And I'm a smoker. And it was getting late and I had to get to the store, and the closest store is a liquor store down Hope Chapel Road. So I have to walk out of my development, and my house, like I said, is backed up to the woods. So I have to walk all the way through the development to get out to the road. And then you go down the back road, which is woods on both sides, woods to the left, woods to the right. Every time I would walk down that road, I'd look to the right and go, oh, one day a coyote's going to come out of there and bite me. I got to find another way to get to where I got to go. And keep walking on. Well, this day, it was a lazy day. I didn't feel like walking. I knew I had to go. I was running out of cigarettes. Time was clicking on the clock. And I'm, oh my God, sun's going to be going down soon. You better get moving. So I left my house, and I think it was getting dark then early. I left my house like 3:45, and I think by 4:30, 4:45, it's already dark. So I'm walking out the development, and I'm walking down this road. I got my iPhone with me, and I'm listening to music, and I look over in the woods to the right, and I'm looking, and I don't see anything, and I'm walking, and I'm passing the houses, and then you get into an area where there's woods and no houses, and then maybe 300 foot, you'll find another house way set back. I'm walking all the way down, and I get like maybe a block before the liquor store. I'm on a corner, and I have to cross that corner, and then there's woods on both sides again. And that's where a coyote ran out one time when I was walking way ahead of me and went to the other sides of the woods right around the same area. Now it's a 2-lane highway. So it's called Hope Chapel Road, or 571. So I'm walking, and the traffic's coming, but it's slowing down now because it's getting later. There's more traffic on the crossroad where the liquor store is. And I'm walking, and it's starting to get dim, but it's still light out. And all of a sudden, there was a cornfield right across from the liquor store. There was no corn there, but it's up on a mount, on a hill. And out of the top of that hill, and it's I want to mention that the road is 4 lanes. There's 2 lanes when you cross that first street, and the next block before the liquor store, there's 2 lanes and a soft shoulder to the road on both sides. So like maybe 5 foot on one side and 6 foot on the other is soft shoulder, then 2 lanes on both sides. So it's a wide space. So I'm clearing the woods. I come to the corner, and out of the top of that cornfield comes this animal flying from the hill. And I'm staring at it. It landed in the middle of the road, and then it leaped and went into the woods on the other side. But this all occurred like slow motion. I saw it jump out, and it stood in the road for a minute or two, and then it leaped up and went into the air. And I was trying to grasp in my head what I was seeing, because I got a side profile of it. And I stopped dead in my tracks, just stood there. It was like time stood still. It like I was in another reality. I just stood there in shock, staring at it. It jumped up in the air and leaped. I don't know how high it went. It went high into the sky with its front legs or arms stretched out and its back legs stretched out. At that point, I was scanning its body, and it was looking straight ahead as if it was chasing something. So it didn't see me, but I saw it. As soon as it came out, I stood dead still, and I stopped breathing, and I didn't move a muscle. I just staring at it, and I started scanning its body from its head to the back of its body, and It had a dog's face, like the muzzle of either a bear or a dog. A long muzzle like a dog. It was jet black, shiny fur. It had hair, not hair, like a mane was a little longer on its head. Its ears were pointed straight up. His shoulders were massive. His chest was massive, like a bodybuilder. Broad shoulders, a real big chest going straight across, and his chest stood out, and his stomach was up high. And by the waist, it was thin, and then the back legs, I didn't notice the tail, but I was trying to scan its body as it was going to get every detail of what I was seeing. And the legs didn't look right to me. It didn't look right to me, like there was something off about the legs, like it didn't belong on a dog. The dog's legs are different than that. And then the legs were stretched out, and it seemed skinny in the waist. And there was skin up on the belly. And the feet were like big like a kangaroo. If you would picture a kangaroo's foot being flat on the ground, the feet were big. And the legs were like thighs, not like an animal, like the dog animal. I didn't see if it had claws or nothing because I didn't have time to scan his body. I was scanning it, and then when it just came from that cornfield, stood in the middle of the road, side profile, just like that picture, then it leaped up into the air and flew across 3 lanes and landed in the woods, not on the edge of the woods, in the woods, and it was gone. And I realized at that point I wasn't breathing. I was like just standing there in awe and shock, and it was like as if time stood still. And I said out loud, I took a step back and I said to myself, did I just see a werewolf? I mean, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to process what I saw. And I didn't know what to do. It was going to be dark at any minute. And I was closer to the store than I was to going home. And it seemed as if it was chasing something. It was preoccupied. And I didn't think about this until later. It knew when the traffic was gone. It had intelligence to know when to come out of that embankment. It knew there was no traffic at that point because the way it dodged out of the top of that embankment, which I'd say when you're walking past it, it's about 6 foot high. The dirt mount is up high, and that's where the cornfield was. It just came flying out of there, stood in the middle of the street, and then leaped up in the air, flying through the air. I was like, I couldn't believe I saw what I saw. And then I didn't know what to do. Do I go home? No, it's going to be dark by the time I get down there. What if it goes back? All kinds of thoughts were going through my head. Oh, no, it's probably chasing something and didn't even see you. So just go to the store. It's closer. As I'm thinking all these things in my head. So I decided to go to the store, and I'm looking at the store, and the sun is 5 foot over the roof of the building. I knew once I got in that store and came out, it was going to be pitch black out. And there's very poor lighting. And to come out of there in the pitch black, I had to either make a choice to walk back down the same way I came, which I didn't want to do. What if it decided to come back? Or, well, going the other way wasn't a good option either, because now I have to walk back home the same way it was running. But anyway, I get in the liquor store, and they must have thought I was drunk coming back for more booze to buy my cigarettes, because I was like, I just saw a werewolf. You're not going to believe this. I just saw a werewolf come out of where that cornfield used to be. You better be careful when you go to your car. And I can't believe I just saw that. I just saw it. It looked like a werewolf. And they're looking at me like I have 10 eyes, But now I gotta leave and I gotta walk home. And I'm like, oh my God, there was no one to call, no one around. I didn't have Uber on my phone. I couldn't call for a taxi. I'm like, what am I gonna do? well, you better just hope and pray you make it home. And I never walked so fast in my life. I swear I was in a marathon race. I walked like the devil was behind me. I just kept walking and walking. And then I had to make a left turn when I finally got to a street, which was pretty far from where I was. Both sides woods. Get a left and walk down a road that has houses right next to each other. So if I would have went the other way, it would have been a long time before I got to a house, and the house was set back. So what was I going to do if I saw it? I probably never would have made it to the door anyway. And I made a left turn at that street, and I started walking home, and all the dogs in that area that were living in those houses I was walking past were barking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, is this thing, are they barking because this is in the area, or are they barking because I'm walking? I got to my development, and I went into what we have a clubhouse, and I went into the bathroom, washed my face, tried to like recover from walking 9 million miles an hour. Waited a few minutes thinking in my head, well, if this thing is following me or watching me or is still around, it's going to think I live here. Which was, I was thinking all kinds of crazy things. I got to get home, and I still had a little ways to go to get to my house, and in the house I went, and I was calling everybody and telling everybody about what I saw. But when you see something like that, it takes time to even process that you saw it. And I didn't know what I was seeing. I thought it was a werewolf, and I didn't know anything about Dogman at the time. And I think it was like a couple of days later, after riding the bus with people I live with in the community and talking about it. And one guy said, watch Dogman's Soldiers to see if that's what you saw. And another lady said, oh, you saw the Jersey Devil. And I said, no, this was no bear. It was no, I don't know what it was. And somebody said, watch that movie, see if that's what you saw. So I'm trying to watch werewolf movies to see if I can match this animal with anything. And during watching this movie, I find Dogman Soldiers, I think the name of the movie was, in the middle of the movie stops. And on the screen pop, the music starts playing Dogman Encounters. And I'm like, how did that happen? I must have accidentally hit my remote, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was part of the movie or something. I didn't know. And I started watching it, and I started hearing somebody's encounter. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what it was. That's what I saw. A Dogman. They're here in New Jersey. And I kept thinking, well, gee, I don't hear anybody talking about New Jersey, maybe I'll hear somebody talking about New Jersey, but listening to other people's stories, I mean, they don't even compare with mine. I don't know what I would do if it turned around and looked at me. Yeah, I probably would have screamed and started running. I don't know what I would have did. But when it happened, it was as if time stood still. And it wasn't long. It didn't take long. It only stood in the street for a minute or two and then leaped. And when it was in midair, it was like everything was in slow motion. I was standing perfectly still, scanning its body from its nose to its backside. And its legs were stretched out and its arms were stretched out. I didn't have time to see the claws or the hands. I didn't see that. I just saw his chest and his shoulders. Massive. And I was trying to figure out, how tall was that? How big was that? What could I match that up against? And there's a stop sign on the corner. It was bigger than the stop sign. And I was telling people about it, but they thought I was crazy, and I did not stop talking about this ever since it happened. And then I started thinking and telling my daughter, and my daughter says to me, I don't believe you, I don't believe you, Ma. I have to see it to believe it. And I said, I swear to God, I saw this. It's a real animal. It's not a man that turns into a werewolf into the middle of the night when the moon is full. It's an animal. It was an animal. And in a way, it was beautiful. The color of it was beautiful. It was like a shiny black, like a cougar. But the shape of its body and that slight hump on its back. Except for that picture, that hump is bigger than the one I saw. The one I saw was a little bit lower on its back, and the fur around the head was a little bit longer, kind of like a short mane that went slightly over the shoulders, and the shoulders, the top of the shoulders, were huge. And then I saw under his chest stuck out, and it was wide, and then it got real skinny and up high towards its belly, and skinny at the waist, and then it had like by the buttocks area, the leg area, it was not fat, but didn't belong on a dog. It didn't belong on an animal. And the legs were stretched out long, so maybe that's why they looked skinny. But the one I saw didn't have as much muscle mass in the legs, but that could have been because it was stretched out. And I'm telling my daughter this story, and she knows about all my strange things that happened to me. And she goes, "Do you ever think, Ma, that maybe you had an encounter with this thing before? That's why you had a fear, not just because of Danny scaring you, but maybe something happened?" And I thought back to when I was a kid. I did have an experience. My mother, I was about 11 years old. My mother had to have back surgery, and it was a serious surgery. So my father sent me over to my mother's brother, my uncle's house, to stay there for a while until my mother came back from the hospital. And the surgery was real serious. And my father told me my mother could be paralyzed if the surgery doesn't go right. So that night over my uncle's house, I slept in my cousin's room. She was younger than me, and I had to stay there for about a week. It was the summertime, and there was a window on the second floor with the curtain, the wind blowing, and the curtain was blowing in and out of the window. And I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking about my mother and what will life be if my mother was not able to walk anymore, and I was worried about her, and I couldn't sleep. I was trying to sleep, but I couldn't sleep worrying about her. And I turned on my side and I looked at my cousin, which was in a twin bed laying next to me. And I was laughing at her because of the way she was sleeping. She had her two arms folded, her head on her arms, and her butt sticking straight up in the air with her legs underneath her stomach. And I'm looking at her laughing. How does this kid sleep like that? And I was uncomfortable, trying to sleep. So I turned facing the window, and there was this thing over the bed with these claws and these teeth open and like kind of smiling, like they said, at me over my bed. And I screamed bloody murder and put my head in my pillow and my blanket over my head. And my aunt came running in the room, and she said, you're dreaming, wake up." Well, she had to pry me out of that pillow. I was not giving that pillow up. I was screaming, "Get it away from me, get it away from me." As I go back and I think about things like, have I had other encounters and never realized it? Because I heard a story that it climbed up a building and it was on a rooftop. And in my development, I have a cousin that lives here, because I would go back and think. My cousin lives here, and I used to ride a bicycle because I don't have a car. And I left the bicycle on her porch, and I went over to get the bicycle, and we were sitting outside smoking, talking, and then I was going to take the bike and go. She went back into the house, locked the door, went in the bathroom. I didn't know she was in the bathroom because I tried to get in a few minutes later and she wasn't opening the door. I got the bike and I started to go off the porch on the bike, and I heard this growl, this deep vibrating growl. And there's a dog around here somewhere. Where's this dog? And I'm looking for a dog. This was before I had the Dogman encounter. I'm looking under the car. Where's this dog? It sounds like it's huge. I went back, banging on the door, calling her. She's not opening the door. I jumped on that bicycle like the Wicked Witch in the Wizard of Oz. I was pedaling so fast to get away from that area because I didn't see it. All I could do was hear it. And I'm thinking, well, was that the Dogman? I'm like, later on, thinking, well, I've heard people say that when it growls, it vibrates your chest. Well, that's kind of how this growl was. It was very deep and made you think the dog was huge. Like I was dealing with I don't know, a massive somewhere, but I couldn't see it. Never dawned on me. Maybe it was on the roof, or maybe it was in the woods. Maybe it was there and I didn't see it. Like I said, I used to walk around here all the time. I did a lot of walking to stores that were further than the liquor store at night, coming home with the woods on both sides, having a creepy feeling like something is watching me the entire time I walked. And that was miles from here, just going back and back. And when I was a kid, I wouldn't sleep in my room unless I drew the curtains. I used to hear tapping on my glass window when I was younger. And that was in the same town where I had that episode over my aunt's house. Now, the logical thing is I did fall asleep and it was a nightmare. I'll never know. But after hearing all these stories, they more kind of in line with the Dogman that I never knew existed until that day. And it could be that I was just afraid and I did fall asleep in my imagination because of fear. I'll never know. But I did hear a growl over my cousin's house, which isn't far from where my house is, in the same development, which is right up against those woods that is at that highway. So right behind those woods is Hope Chapel Road of 571, where it came out of. And then I heard stories that the Dogman has been seen in Jackson at an old abandoned brick factory. So it's in this area. My daughter tells me a story. She went to Wawa, which is another store around here, and the kids ride those dirt bikes back in the woods in the summertime. You can hear the motors running and them going back in the woods with it. She said these two kids came into Wawa and wanted them to call the police because a werewolf chased them out of the woods. And she came home and told me that night. She goes, "Ma, I owe you an apology." So after hearing all these other stories and realizing exactly what it was, it's just made me, in a way, it's good because I know what I'm dealing with. But this animal is like, I would compare it to walking in the Serengeti without being in your Jeep and coming across a tiger or a rhino. It's big, it's powerful, it's real, it's flesh and blood, it's an animal, and animals can be unpredictable. So that's the fear behind it. It's unpredictable, but the view I got of it wasn't very threatening because I didn't think it saw me. But then I thought, well, maybe it followed me as I was walking down that road. Maybe it was aware I was there and it came out right in front of me to let me know it was there. I didn't feel threatened by it because it didn't look at me and I didn't think it saw me. The good thing is I know there's no such things as, I don't believe in wendigos, men turning into werewolves. And it's taught me a lesson that there's so much we don't know about the world that we're living in. What else is out there? Yeah, it's like werewolves are real, but it's an animal. It's not a man that turns into a wolf when the moon is full. It's not all that spooky stuff. It's a real animal. I thought it was beautiful when I saw it because it was magnificent. It was like so powerful. I wouldn't sit on my back porch anymore. I used to go out and sit on the back porch at night, smoke my cigarettes, watch movies on my phone, my iPad. I won't do that no more because it could come from the middle of those woods and be on my back deck in seconds. It's super fast, super powerful. That's the scary thing about it, is that we're not the top of the food chain. And when you look at this, you're not the top of the food chain anymore. There's something out there bigger and badder than you as a human. But, I've heard stories, episodes where that one guy killed it. And I don't know if that's true or not, but He said he killed it. He went in there to get a second look at it, and he wound up hunting it down and killing it. Now, that broke my heart. I won't want to see them, people going out trying to kill them, or like I said, I'm an animal lover. It's an animal. It's just an animal. The scary thing is animals can be unpredictable. I know it has some form of intelligence because it knew when to come out. Like there was a car that went and a car that went, and then the traffic slowed down. And when there was no traffic on either side of the road, it came out. So it was like it knew when to come out. I thought it was chasing something, so it was preoccupied. It didn't notice me. So that's the only thing that made me go forward, too. I thought that it's probably long gone. But when you're walking in the dark, you're hoping it's long gone. You don't know. Is it around you? All these thoughts are going through your head as you're going home. Sometimes I think I'd like to see it at a long distance to get a better look at it. But then again, people said that the faces were scary. Some of them looked like hyenas. And I know there's different types from watching the show, but I don't know what the different types are. Anyway, I've been trying to forget about it because I've obsessed about it over the last year and a half. Couldn't get it out of my mind. I haven't had any nightmares, but I still get a little spooked. I shut my windows. I lock my windows. I don't sleep with the windows open anymore. Like I said, I'm a little afraid to go out to my car at night. If I hear a branch crack behind me, I'm holding my breath. I'm looking over my shoulder. That's the kind of fear it could put into you when you see it, because it's bigger and badder than you. And that's the fear. It's bigger and badder than you. So you just don't know. And that's the thing that scares me. You just don't know. I mean, it didn't hurt me. It could have swept my head off in a flash. I mean, it could have seen me or walked where it followed me on the way home. I don't know these things, but all these other things that happened to me kind of fit in line with the Dogman. And then I said, well, being in a suburban area, maybe that was a dream. But then I've heard a story about it being in an apartment development or high-rise apartment buildings. These two kids playing basketball and it's jumping on the roof. It was on the roof. Another woman that said she saw it on her balcony. I think she lived way high up it could scale up the walls. I believe it could jump. My roof is, maybe 8 foot, 9 foot. And the roof is there. It's in a, what do they call that? A ranch. I live in a ranch house. So the roof isn't far from the ground. So when I was over my cousin's house, hers is lined up against the wood, right up behind that highway where we saw it. And then my daughter's girlfriend owns a farm in Jackson, and they've been having sightings of the Dogman over there. It's killed chickens in the barn. I told her to get in touch with you, Vic, and tell her your story, but that's about it. But something I'll surely never forget.
Oh, I'm sure you never will forget it. If you've had a Dogman encounter and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest on one of my 2 Bigfoot shows, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let me know. Please don't lose sight of the fact, Liz, that the fact that you're still here intact, unharmed, has nothing to do with you locking your windows and locking your doors and closing your windows at night and not sitting out on the porch and all the things you've done. You're here because it doesn't want to harm you. If it wanted to harm you, none of those things would have stopped it. But the good news is, like I told you the first time we spoke, it's proven with its own actions that it doesn't want to harm you. I'm not going to say all dogmen are safe to be around, but that one proved with its own actions that it does not want to harm you. So please never lose sight of that fact.
Yeah, that's true. That makes me relax when I think about it. But, it's like, I don't know if I want to see it again. I don't know. Maybe I should to get over, like they say, that Wolfman phobia fear. I mean, that followed me into my 30s. 30 years old, I was still terrified. And just turned 70 last week. So I'm very active for my age, doing all the walking I do. It's just shocking, in a good kind of way, kind of like eliminated the phobia and brought it into a real living creature. That's, a nightmare monster. This is an animal like a tiger, and I love tigers. I think tigers are the most magnificent animal God created. They're so beautiful. When I got a look at this, I put that in that category. It was beautiful. The color of its fur was gorgeous. The creepy thing was the slight hump on its back, the size of the shoulders, and I kind of don't. When it jumped out of the cornfield, it stood in the road, but I don't have a clear picture of that because I was in complete shock at that point, trying to grasp what I was looking at. What am I seeing? But when I saw that picture, that was what it was. But I don't have a clear, crisp memory of it because my mind was still trying to get behind what I was seeing, and I wasn't dead focused scanning its body from every inch of its body at that moment because it just happened in a flash. But that's what it looked like because the shape of it is exactly how it was. The huge chest, the big shoulders. And where did you ever see this in your life? You never seen anything like growing up. You went to a farm, you saw chickens, cows, goats, pigs. You go to a safari place, a great adventure. You see a giraffe, a rhino. There's cougars and lions and tigers and bears. This doesn't fit into our knowledge of animals. But my impression of it when I first saw it was magnificent, but creepy because it kind of resembled a man from the top up. Its chest, like a bodybuilder. Huge rib cage. Massive. It was nothing that exists except for in horror movies. You see these in horror movies. Kind of does look like, not Dogman soldiers, they were hairy and more matted and not pretty. This was perfect. Its fur was gorgeous. I compare it to a little bit longer than a black panther. Had that black sheen to it. And I love dogs. And I love cats. I'm an animal lover. But if it turned around with a mean hyena face, I think I would have passed out. I don't think I would have handled that too good. But the point that I saw, the view of it, I was in awe. And you feel like time stands still. It's as if you're in a time warp, like everything slowed down, except for my eyeballs scanning that and my brain trying to comprehend what I was seeing. You're just in shock. In shock. But, like I said, as I've learned about it, I wouldn't want to come into a confrontation with it. I guess it could. If it wants to get me, it could get me easily. I just don't want to put myself in the position to have him make the decision. So if I stay out of its way, that decision won't have to be made. But it could have took me out in a heartbeat that night. If it was still in the area and it was following me or watching me, yeah. I mean, there was no way, I would have been able to get out of that. No way. Couldn't get to a door faster than it could get to you, or there was miles that I walked that day to get home. So, and it was pitch black out. Nobody would have seen anything. I just would have disappeared. So I think there are some of them that might be very dangerous and some of them that really aren't interested in us. I just wonder on why they're coming into society. Like they're coming out of the woods, and I haven't noticed. I usually see more animals back here. I've seen wild turkeys come out of the woods and deer, possums, raccoons. I have not seen one raccoon. I have not seen one turkey. Wild turkey. I have not seen a deer. I'm wondering, are they running out of food and they're looking for food in our communities? It seems like there's more and more sightings of them. They're getting bolder and bolder and coming into our world more. So that in itself is a little scary, only because of the power behind them. Keeping up with cars running next to a car. It's unbelievable.
Everything about these guys is scary.
Yeah, it's really, they're very powerful animals. I've seen that within the first few seconds. I mean, the length that it jumped was unbelievable. The only animal that would have that kind of power, and I wouldn't even say I had that much power. I don't know how far a tiger could leap or a cougar, but the power behind it is just unbelievable. The strength in it and how fast it moves. It's just, there's nothing that we can compare it to. I thought cougar, maybe a cougar could move that fast, but doesn't have the same chest, head, same kind of fur, maybe a little shorter, same color. But sometimes I wish I saw its face, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I'm sure if you did get to see the eyes, you'd never get that out of your head. You just never get it out of your mind to see those teeth and if the eyes that they saw. I don't know. I think I would have. They would have had somebody would have found me lying on the side of the road out cold. I think if it turned around and I saw that, I think I would have went out cold. Nah, no doubt. And then again, I don't know. And maybe I wouldn't have, because, like I said, it kind of took the phobia away. It's not a monster, a Hollywood-produced monster. It's a real animal. And it exists in our world. We'll just have to learn how to find out more about it and hope that it doesn't want us. I don't know. Try to process it. It's really hard to process.
It normally is. And that makes two of us who are so glad that it didn't turn and look at you.
I think I would have went out cold. Lights out. That's it. Game over. If I would have saw that growling in my face like some of these people that turned in front of you, I think, oh my God. I don't know. My old fear would have came back like the night in the bedroom when I was a kid. That was horrific. And I swore for years I was not sleeping. And I was looking in books when I was younger because, maybe it's a demon. Coming from a Catholic background, it's a demon. I saw a demon. No, that's not what it looked like. Trying to figure that out when I was a kid. Then the logical explanation is I did fall asleep and I had a dream, a nightmare. What animal's going to jump on a roof and come in the window? Till you heard Dogman encounters and how they bothered little children and they tap on the glass and they've been in people's homes. I'm like, oh my God, was that real? Who knows? Could have been. I saw it. I saw the real deal. And that's what even made it stranger for me because I had a phobia my whole life. It's like either I'm insane or I saw this and I know I'm not crazy. I did see this and other people have seen the same exact thing. So either it's mass hallucination or it's happening. And I tell my daughter and everybody, don't go in the woods. Don't do that. Stay out of the woods. And that's why I told people, stay out of the woods. Why take the chance? What if you run into one that's not friendly? You can't escape that. I think it'd jump on you and kill you just from its size. Forget about the claws. Just the size of it would knock you out. Amazing. It was amazing. And everybody wants to see it after you hear the story, but if you see it, you're never going to get it out of your head. I don't know. It makes you wonder about the world we're living in.
It does make you wonder about the world we live in. But I'll tell you this, though, Liz, I am so glad you're talking about this. This is never going to give you the warm and fuzzies, but I'm so glad you are talking about it because it's all about exposure when it comes to you healing from these experiences. So, while it's not comfortable to do so, you are going to grow from this. So, please don't lose sight of that fact. I'm still unclear on this, though. Did that encounter happen close to the Pine Barrens or inside them?
Well, we're part of the Pine Barrens, but we're not in the middle or it's kind of strange. We have a lot of woods. We're in the Pine Barren area. I mean, it is the Pine Barrens, but it's not deep into the Pine Barrens. Like, I know there's a naval base, Lakehurst Naval Base, the Air Force is right down the road, and that goes back for, I think, through another state. It goes like far, far back. The odd thing, talking about the naval base, is a couple of years back, I think I told you this before about the helicopters. There were helicopters, black op helicopters, flying all around in the woods behind me. They were there all day and part of the night with like these spotlights in the woods, up and down, back and forth. And there's like a swamp right behind me. It's like a stream from a lake that's been blocked by the beavers. They put a dam in up at that lake. And we got like a little stream back here, and it's very swampy back there. Somebody that lived in this development years ago went walking in there and never came out. They couldn't find them. I remember when I moved in, my neighbor told me, don't go walking back in those woods. And what did I do? I went walking back in those woods when I first moved in. I walked in there for miles. So there's a lot of woods on these helicopters. What we heard was they were surveying the land. But you know the Army Black Ops helicopters? They were the ones flying all back in that wooded area. And I kept thinking to myself, they're looking for something. Or maybe they're playing military war games or something back there, but that's not normal. I mean, it was day and night, those helicopters, the noise, they kept going, looking for, they don't do that at night, survey land, and something was up back there in those woods. And I think they know about it, but they're not saying anything. They're not letting the public know about it. I think there's something going on with the military and these animals. I don't know. But it was strange. I thought that was strange, and that was long before my encounter, a couple of years before my encounter. As far as the Pine Barrens go, there's Waretown, what was it, Whiting? Very heavily wooded area. I was going to make a video of the area and send it to you. How there's like miles of woods that go back. Jackson, it goes all the way down to Atlantic City. Past Atlantic City, that's the Pine Barrens. This is like, we're in the Pine Barrens, but the beginning of the Pine Barrens, not the end of it, like the middle of it or the midst of it. We're on the beginning of it. And then if you continue, you're deep into the pines. Like if you keep going past Whiting and down that way, then you're into the midst of the pine. Tuckerton, and not far from us. Tuckerton, and that's the Pine Barrens. Yeah. They say the Jersey Devil's in there. That's what everybody was telling me. I saw the Jersey Devil. So this was no Jersey Devil. It was an animal. It looked like a wolf. Looked like a werewolf. Looked exactly like a werewolf. But less scary. Not a monster. An animal. The only thing scary about it is it looks part man, part human. The body, the chest, the shoulders. The stomach looked like a dog's stomach. You know how a dog has skin on its stomach? The stomach was like a beige tan color. Up high. And like, almost like what kind of a dog is it? A Doberman Pinscher? Where the chest is out and then the stomach is up high and it's got a skinny waist. That's the kind of angle, like it was skinny in the waist area, up high, and its chest was out massive. And I'm like, oh my God. So we're part of the Pine Barrens, I'd say. Yeah, I say we're part of the Pine Barrens.
The Pine Barrens sure are a strange place. It really is hard to say what you might run into in that place, and I guess you found out the hard way about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hear all kinds of crazy things, and that weird New Jersey tells all kinds of backwoods stories and stuff. And I'm not one to go looking for that kind of stuff either. Here I am just going to the store to get my cigarettes, and bam, I'm in the midst of a story. It's just like, what else is in this world that we don't know about? It's just, you living in a different world that I grew up in. Who didn't knew this animal existed? Like, what other animals are out there? And you see all these stories on YouTube. I watch them now. These other things that are out there, and it's like, I don't know. I'm a skeptic too. I don't know if there's a man walking around that looks like a lizard or somebody that looks like a goat. I never saw any of that. But after seeing a werewolf, who knows what's out there? I mean, it's just not the same world I thought I was living in. It's shocking. There's no way to express the shock of it. It just doesn't belong in your vocabulary of your world that you live in. It doesn't fit. It's not normal, it's out of the norm. But like they say, they've been around since the 1800s and beyond, and they're on every continent, and they're all over the place. That there was a story I found after seeing this and hearing about the Beast of Briar Road and all different stories. So this thing has been seen all over the place, and I thought only, well, maybe in Wisconsin, but never in New Jersey. And I'm like waiting for other people to come on the show that are from New Jersey and tell their story, because they're definitely here. And so I don't know if they travel like from state to state or, and it seems to be that there's a lot of them. I mean, it's not like one or two. They go in packs, because Leanne said that these kids, they're being seen by the old abandoned brick factory, it's called, in Jackson. And I'm on the cusp of Lakehurst, Jackson, Whiting, right on the cusp of all of them, which is the beginning of the Pine Barrens. So it's a lot of pine lands here. A lot.
I'm not sure if you knew it, but about 3-4 shows ago, Big S came on and talked about encounters he had in the Pine Barrens as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name is Mike Colantonio. He's a good man, and if you want, I can put you into contact with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely. I like to hear somebody else, from my area, because you feel alone. I know, well, she said these kids. And when the kids came in, the clerk had said, "Oh, that's a Dogman." I'm like, he knew about it. So she goes, "Yeah, the clerk told him it's a Dogman. Watch Dogman Encounters, see, Vic?" Words out.
I guess it is. Yeah, sounds like he did know.
The clerk, yeah, knew all about you. He said, "Oh, it's Dogman." I told the police officer my daughter got stopped. I forget what for, not clapping her windshield wipers on one night. Coming home, and I said to the cop, "Have you heard any reports about any animals?" It's like it was never off of my mind. It's there. It's part of me now, this experience. It's like when I was a kid, that stayed with me forever. This is going to stay with me until the end, I think. I'll get all the answers when I'm not around anymore. When I move on to other pastures, I'll have all the answers, but there's just a lot about this world we don't know about. We don't know what's right here. I don't know if they were modified animals by the government, but they say they've been around since the 1800s, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's an experiment, if the government is producing them. I mean, the helicopter thing that happened, like going back a couple of years ago, was kind of strange. I thought that was strange when it was happening. Like, that's not what they're doing. They're not surveying. Why are they doing this at night? Why are there big spotlights out over there? What are they looking for? Did somebody kill somebody? They're looking for somebody in the woods? Yeah, all kinds of things run through your mind. That was weird. But then I connected to that. Well, maybe they were looking for them. Maybe they know that they're in the area and they shouldn't be in here, or maybe they're training them, or you think all kinds of crazy things because you try and make sense out of what you saw, and you just can't get any answers. It's just an animal. But why does it look like a man? No, unless it's. I don't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution, so is it evolving from an animal into a man type? Yeah, all kinds of things go through your head trying to figure out what was that? Why is it in society? Is it from this planet? All kinds of things. Maybe it's from another planet. I don't think it's from another dimension where it slips in between dimensions, but who knows? You don't know. You just don't know. All I know is I saw it and it was real and it was a living, breathing animal, not somebody that turned into a wolf. I don't know. Crazy world.
Yes, it is. It's a lot crazier than most of us are ever going to know, too. So, yeah, that's a fact. Well, it's about time for us to get out of here, Liz. But before we do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
If you decide to go in the woods, don't be alone and don't be far from your car. Stay out of the woods if possible. I don't want to cramp on anybody's fun or anything, but I tell everybody don't go in there because you just don't know. You just don't know. And that's the whole thing. Like, you can't go walking around in the middle of Africa without protection. There's things that you just don't do. You don't go swimming where there's crocodiles. Has it hurt anybody? It's hurt very few people. But who's to know if you're going to run into a good one or a bad one? You don't know until it happens. And if it happens, you're not going to get out of it. They're the apex predator, not you. Unless you're packing a gun that would put it to sleep, which I hate to think that because they have a right to live too. I hate hunting. That drives me crazy when people go kill animals. I mean, they do for food source or whatever, but I'm like an animal lover nut. So it's like they have a right to live and breathe. They're here too. If you do see one, keep your distance. Don't show any fear and just be safe. That's all. Just be safe. Don't panic.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, like I would.
Yeah, a lot easier said than done. Well, Liz, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing the details of those experiences with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vic, for letting me come on the show. And thank all the other people that call in because at least I knew what I saw after seeing your show, and it was fun. So I'll let you know if I see it again. I hope not, but
I hope not too.
Yeah, at a distance, I wouldn't mind seeing it at a very far distance where I could leave if I wanted at any time. But it was an experience.
Oh, I'm sure it was. That it was. Well, thanks again so much for your time and have a great night.
You too, Vic.
Thanks. We'll see ya.